G'day and welcome to another episode of The Shootout. Cliffo, Kate and Orch with you as always to rip through the latest round of the Sultana Bran H1 season. And gee whiz, guys, we've got a thrilling final round ahead of us already on the men's side of things. The Brisbane Blaze and the Canberra Chill men have qualified for the main event in Bendigo. On the ladies' side, Hockey Club Melbourne and the Perth Thundersticks have booked their tickets down to Bendigo as well. So they're safely through. There's a few other teams jostling this final round to try and get their ticket down to the main event. We can't wait to see what happens. But before we do that, let's just have a look in the background here. Kate, you've got a Chelsea scarf. Cliffo, you've hung an Arsenal scarf. Are we trying to get new work after this? Is that what's happening here?
Look, I wouldn't say no to a Chelsea football commentary career for sure. Sam Kerr, call me up. I'm free. After the 20th of November, I'm absolutely clear schedule. What about you, Cliffo?
Absolutely. Always never miss an opportunity to rub in the Arsenal winning 1-0 this morning, Orch. Love it.
I'm too embarrassed to even talk about my side, so we'll just move on, hey? Let's go to what caught our eye from last round. Kate, you're going to kick us off. Tell us what caught your eye.
Look, Orch, I hate to go on about this, but once again, the ball kids are being absolutely savage with some of our top hockey stars. Maybe this kid, he's a secret Perth supporter. He's from Canberra, but he's definitely given knuckles to the opposite team. He's got knuckles for the captain of the Australian team, Aaron Zalewski, but he's got no time for Ben Craig, also a national player, I would add. And anyway, Ben Craig, he's just left bumping air. Poor Ben. So that's another one to add to the list of people who've been air high-fived this season. There's a fair few. The other one I've seen is possibly a little more serious, but I wanted to highlight what happened here in this match, Hockey Club Melbourne against Adelaide. So Hannah Cotter is running out on the defensive battery, and that in itself caught my eye because Hannah Cotter's a striker, right? So she'd usually be tugging up to the halfway mark with the rest of the strikers. Interestingly, they've chosen her. She's obviously a speed demon, so she's probably the best to be the first runner out. Anyway, she does what she does best. She runs out as fast as she can, and she's actually beamed out and stolen the ball, and that's set up this, what looks to be an amazing counter-attacking opportunity. She's got a whole field ahead of her. It's opening up. Of course, she's got her strikers up there on the 25, on the halfway, ready to go. And the umpire calls it back. And she, absolutely right, looks kind of fuming. She's eating the meters up and being called back because she's got the mask still on from running out. Now, I know the rule is you have to get rid of the mask as soon as you have an opportunity. But by the looks of this replay, I don't think she has an opportunity. She's going as fast as Hannah Cotter does with the ball on her stick. She's got no one around her. I don't think there's really a risk of her running head first into anyone. So I think she's every right to be mad. What do you two think? What do you reckon, Orch? You're the rules master in this crew.
Look, as everyone knows, I'm a big fan of the umpires. I think they do a wonderful job. I say that a little bit with my tongue in cheek, but I do support the umpires wherever necessary. On this occasion, Kate, I actually had a look through the rule book, and the letter of the law is you must take your face mask off before you leave the 25 or when the umpire deems it appropriate for you to take it off. So, look, it's one of those rules, I reckon there's a bit of grey. The umpire probably should have let it play, but by the letter of the law, technically I think she had every right to blow the whistle, and you could see Hockey Club Melbourne were furious. They were away, and who knows what would have happened. Thankfully, it didn't cost them. But the letter of the law, I'm going to have to stick up for the umpires here.
No, I dispute that. I don't know which rule book you're looking at, but I looked up the FIH rules of hockey, and that it said when you have the first opportunity to take the mask off when you leave the 25. I argue she doesn't have an opportunity. Well, I don't know where you found the rules, but that was my interpretation.
This will be perfect because Scotty will put in the rule right here and we'll all have a good laugh and we'll see it later on. So let's move on from there. Cliffo, you've drilled into the Perth Thundersticks women's tactics against a really exciting import. Tell us more.
Yeah, thanks, Orch. I didn't take you for much of a reader, so that's enlightening in itself. But look, guys, I was loving the Saturday Arvo pushback in Canberra, 1,900, nearly 2,000 in the crowd. And for me, it was really evident from the outset that Perth's number one target was Shihori Oikawa, the MVP from 2019, and she'll probably be up there, right, in the voting this year as well. And Perth really made life hell for her, as these highlights showcase. They set out to curb her influence on the match using a variety of methods. You know, we saw some hard double tackles, some close marking and pressing, either with one or two, really splitting and shifting the ball to the sideline and really negating her influence on the ball. And then when Perth had the ball, in particular in the first quarter, where they marched to a 3-0 advantage, they entered the circle really intelligently, not just with width and depth, but also with real speed. And that took Oikawa out of the equation. So I'm giving full marks to Phil Hulbert and the Perth Thundersticks for that.
Yeah, interesting tactics, wasn't it? Too often, free defenders in both the men's and ladies' game get a free ride, guys. They just waltz around in the middle of the field while everyone else does all the hard work, shuffling side to side. Don't get me wrong, very important position. We've had some wonderful players take up that free defender spot, but we've watched Oikawa dominate for basically 2 whole seasons now. So it's about time someone put some time and effort and energy into her. Well done. Maybe they've unlocked the secret to beating the Canberra Chill. We'll have to wait and see if they can get through to Bendigo, and maybe some other teams will employ the same tactics. Look, for me, I'm having a look at the lighter side of the commentary last week. I was tuning in on Friday night, and who do I see? None other than Kin Smith and Sam Hargraves doing their best. A Miami Vice impression. I don't know if it was that, if it was twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, or whether it was just the two boys on the same page thinking, let's just wear exactly the same kit. So Richie Beno would have been proud. I don't know if it was the off-white, the ivory, the bone, whatever it was. But the boys had a bit of fun. It did remind me, though, guys, of Jacket Gate a couple of years ago on Channel 9. I remember, I think it was Julie Snook and Amber Sherlock had a real Barney over wearing the same thing. But thankfully, the boys, consummate professionals, they got on with it. I even threw an Instagram post up to say who wore it better, and Kin Smith has won in a landslide. So sorry, Sam. Next week, maybe Kin can wear the bone and you'll have to wear something else. Anyway, that's what caught our eye this week. Welcome back to the shootout. Now, guys, I think it's fair to say season 2 of the Sultana Bran Hockey One League has exceeded everyone's expectations. We're talking bigger crowd numbers, more people watching online, engagement online as well. Our TV viewership, I think, is improved from season 1 as well. And I reckon the on-field action has also been of a high quality. We're seeing more depth of talent across the competition than ever before. We've had a ball discussing it, but we thought, why not we're not going to rest on our laurels, sorry. We're going to look ahead to season 3, 2023, and work out what can we do to make this competition the best competition in the world? What can we add? What maybe could make the product better for people viewing at home or even the players taking part? So we're going to throw a few ideas out there. We're going to spitball a few things and hopefully some of it can stick ahead of next year. Cliffo, why don't you kick us off, mate?
Yeah, I'll kick us off, Orch, by talking about, I think we need to introduce a draft. Now, I can already hear hockey traditionalists starting to moan, but hear me out, guys. The Hockey One League cannot be just another national championships if we're truly going to generate the revenue for the sport and its athletes. And so I think an important step towards is to equalise the league, and which we must remember is only as strong as its weakest link. Okay, we can't have franchises going 2 seasons without a victory. So I'm a big advocate for a draft. I think it's a must-have, like it or not. And so the question becomes, how can we incorporate a draft that still protects the franchises' past great work in developing homegrown champions? So I put it out to you guys that we need a development draft, meaning any Kookaburras player, any Hockey Roos player would still remain with their home team, but then the development squad or any other players identified by the high-performance teams could enter a draft with the bottom team from the year previous maybe having the first 2 picks or something like that.
I love it, Cliffo. Absolutely love it. The more, and not only because it evens out the playing distribution, which we need. Obviously, there are a couple of teams. Adelaide Fire men haven't got a win this season. Hockey Club Melbourne almost, went 2 seasons without winning. But this creates more opportunities for us to talk about hockey. More excitement, more engagement for the fans, more interest year-round. If Hockey One's going to grow, it needs to be a year-round discussion. And so 7-week season, it's great. We love it for the time that it has. And then it goes off the radar completely. If we had a draft, there'd be building towards the draft. There'd be training and storylines coming out of the new next exciting hockey players. And what it does, it also creates these characters that we can become attached to over their career. So, when Buddy Franklin first came onto the scene and we followed his career, or Tom Brady, who was drafted at 300 and something and became a multi-Super Bowl champion. These are the stories that people love. And that's what excites me about the draft. What do you reckon, Orch?
Yeah, I reckon you both nailed it. It's a good idea. We see it in other sports around the world, things like the NBA, the NFL, even here in the AFL. The draft system seems to be the best way to equalise the competition. I think that's the issue we've got at the moment. And it's not just Sultana Bran Hockey One League. When it was the old competition, teams like Adelaide or the NT, when they had teams in, were always near the bottom and struggling to get wins. So I think the draft's a great idea, but I like the fact that you can hold on to your homegrown talent. It's difficult for a supporter to sell to them that you're going to lose some of your best players that you've developed, that you've helped create and mould into future champions. But this way you can hold on to your best talent. And it also makes it a bit of a friendly rivalry within the ranks. Who wants to play for the New South Wales Pride and who might get shoveled off somewhere else? So I really like it and I think it's good. But you've got a bit of a point system tweak, Kate, is that right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to add as well, I was talking to someone, I was sort of tweeting someone during one of the games on the weekend, talking about how we could even out the competition a little more. And obviously at the moment, hockey's still growing. We don't have the money that, say, AFL or NRL do have. They have salary caps to keep their teams fair. So players need to trade and they move elsewhere, right, if they're very good and worth that money. But what if we could use a point system? And a lot of local leagues actually do this, where if a player plays nationally, they're in the Hockeyroos or the Kookaburras, they're on the top tier of points. And then below them, if you're a squad member, you're another level of points. And below them, national development squad points, state rep, and so on. So what happens is then you have to fit in the certain number of points into your squad. And that would mean that, that there's opportunities for trades with the draft. There's opportunities for players to go elsewhere if they want to play a position that they're not going to get there. And I think it would really help to even out. We know a couple of the teams are very stacked.
I think the point system is really meritorious, particularly when we get to our next topic of conversation in expanding the number of teams in the league, Orch.
Yeah, and that's my point. We need an 8th team. I'm conscious that we don't want to spread ourselves too thin early, but I just think eliminating the bye is important. We don't want to have teams not playing in a 7-week season. It's also, at the moment, more than half of our competition make the semi-finals or the main event, which means it's not really rewarding superior play. So, look, a lot of people straight away will jump out of the trees and say, great, the NT Stingers are back. I don't think that's the answer. Darwin, for a couple of reasons, maybe not the right spot. It's a long way away, so it's going to be very costly to get teams up there. The NT has never had a history of having a pool of players good enough to be competitive at a National League level. That's just the truth. I know they won't like that, but that's just how it is.
Oh, okay, Simon. You ever heard of the Terrace family? There's
a
few up there.
Of course. Look, everyone, one swallow doesn't make a summer. Just because they've had 1 or 2 or 3 really talented people over the journey, the history of results for NT, both in the ladies and the men, the Stingers and the Pearls, would show they're down the bottom. And we've seen that with Adelaide as well. I think they would be the first to put their hand up and say, we don't have the talent. So then it turns into, well, where do you put the team? I'm going to nominate Newcastle. I live near Newcastle, so obviously there's maybe a hint of bias. But when you look at the fact that they've got one of the best facilities in the country, millions of dollars poured into it in the last couple of years to make it absolutely superb. It's probably on par with Tassie. Cliffo is one of the best facilities or centres in the country. There's an airport here, so teams can easily fly in and out and get to Newcastle. But it also rewards, in New South Wales anyway, a lot of our best talent comes from the regional or rural areas. So it sort of provides a bit of a pathway and a developmental link to the country, because New South Wales obviously is so much bigger than other cities around the country. But I'm interested, where else would you put a team? Cliffo, Kate, any ideas?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to look across the ditch, although I like the idea of the Newcastle Newts, Orch. And I think if you saw the viewership of Sky Sports New Zealand, tuning in and watching the Hockey One League just in the last 6 weeks, you'd be amazed at the interest over there in New Zealand's in the Hockey One League. And I think New Zealand, is the natural place for an 8th team in the first instance. I also think that's a way that the current 7 franchises could be supported with a buy-in. I think putting the money up for Newcastle will be a little bit challenging initially until the league's grown a little bit in its commercial, the way it's able to attract sponsors and those sort of things. So New Zealand for mine. What about you, Kate?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I love the idea of having Darwin. I know it'd be expensive, and I know that it's very difficult to get in and out. It's expensive, but it's it's the last one, right? It's the one left from the National League. And if we did have a draft system and we did have a point system, we'd be able to combat the inequality issues. And we start looking at Hockey One as a franchise system rather than the old style of thinking of these teams as where you grew up and you represented your state. We start to think of a franchise system like other sports. But if I'm picking between your two choices, I really like New Zealand. I think the Kiwis, the Auckland Kiwis, could be great. The other thing, I guess, though, there is it's also expensive to fly to. So maybe we could do a deal. Maybe Air New Zealand. Does anyone from Air New Zealand listen to the shootout? Because, hello, give us a call.
Trips, you reckon? It's hard yakka, but it's a good conversation. I'm sure there's others out there. So if you've got some suggestions, throw them up. I know there'd be people up in Rockhampton or somewhere at Townsville saying, give us a team. And we've seen Brisbane have been really successful winning the women's last year and leading the men's this year. So maybe Queensland deserve another side. Anyway, we'll continue the debate. I've just got a couple of more to add, and I think these are necessities to make the broadcast better next year. Kate and Cliffo, you've both been involved in it this year. So you've been pitch side or watching and commentating. So you know what I'm talking about. We need to improve the shootout method. And by that, I mean, we need to at least light up the goals or put a backboard behind the goals that lights up to let everyone know that the 8 seconds has expired. We've had a couple of instances so far this season where the ball is either across the line, crossing the line, or maybe in the air. And then we're relying on umpires just to do it on a line of sight and whether they thought it went across or not. We see it in basketball. We see it in other sports where things light up. The zing bails in cricket is another great way for kids to get excited about the sport. So I think that's one addition that we need to have for our conversions and shootouts. The other one, Cliffo, you mentioned it in an earlier episode, we need reviews. I think it was maybe the Tassie girls who were stooged by a contentious call, which maybe ruled them out of the tournament. So, look, we need to have a review, maybe one per side. If you get it right, you keep it, or just eliminate it, have one per side for the duration of the game. Any other thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely need reviews. And I think actually reviews could bring in another element to the shootouts as well. If you had cameras, I mean, I don't know how possible it is to get cameras on the sides of the goal looking across, in the NFL where you've got to break the line with the ball and they do replays of the ball going over the line. Maybe we could get the review to show that. And that's interesting as well to watch. But you're right. I mean, if we have a system where the ball was in time and it lit up, apart from anything, it's great fun to watch, isn't it?
Yeah. I've just got one more bugbear, and that's around the repeat penalty corners, guys. So I've seen a couple of times now we've had 3, 4, 5 consecutive penalty corners, and I wonder if we could tweak that rule so that we could actually stop the clock when a penalty corner is conceded or won, and actually have sort of a hierarchy, I guess, of dropping a player each time you give away another corner, or even ending up with a conversion just to keep the game ticking along a little bit as well.
How about this,
Yeah,
Cliffo?
like
Let's just get rid of the corners. Let's get rid of the corners altogether. How about that? Throw a cat amongst the pigeons. The Europeans, I can hear them shouting from here. It doesn't add to our game, in my opinion. It's a very isolated skill set. We usually have one drag flicker while everyone else stands around and watches. The runners are in danger. The posties are in danger. Get rid of it. And let's not talk about what we replace it with because I don't know. But look, we've had a crack. We've thrown some ideas out there. I'll tell you what we have done. Our general manager is scratching his head thinking, where are they getting all this money? We're having zing goals and we're flying to New Zealand and we're adding teams. But anyway, that's why it's fun, pie in the sky stuff, and you never know what you might see next year in the Sultana Bran Hockey 1 League. Well, here we are, the final regular season round of the Sultana Bran Hockey 1 League, and a lot to play for some teams. For others, you just want to finish on a good note and head into the 2023 season with some wind beneath your sails. Kate, you're going to call the Thursday night action. It's Hockey Club Melbourne up against the Tassie Tigers. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so in the Women's League, the Hockey Club Melbourne are one of the only teams locked in for the finals. So they're safe, but then positioning becomes important because in Bendigo, 1 plays 4 and 2 plays 3 for the semi-finals. So you really want to lock in your first place. If they get a win, that appears very likely. I think almost certain. And if they lose, God forbid, Tassie might throw them into second or third. So Hockey Club Melbourne, I think they really want to get a win and they want to put their goal difference up to really ensure that. In the men's, Tassie really need to win. They're currently 5th. If they get a win or even a shootout win, they jump over Perth who has the bye this week, and they automatically get to finals. So must win for the men. Hockey Club Melbourne, though, that those men got their first win last week, and their tails are up. They showed that they can score quickly. They got 9 goals against Adelaide. So who knows? They might just have a final punch just to give the season something at the end of the season. But yeah, it'd be interesting.
Well, if you're struggling for motivation, knocking out a team that's maybe finals bound, that's good enough motivation for me. So yeah, I reckon we can see an improved showing from Hockey Club Melbourne in the men anyway. Cliffo, Brisbane Blaze take on the Adelaide Fire on Friday night. A couple of big fixtures here, especially for the girls.
Yeah, with those nicknames, Orch, the action's sure to be pretty hot, but I'm standing by my prediction Brisbane Blaze will win the men's comp, and this will be a great learning opportunity, I think, for the Fire men, where I hope there's just one last highlight reel for Jack Holland. He's been exceptional. And then in the women's competition, my head's as sore as probably poor old Lucy Cooper's was after that knock she copped last week. But I've worked out that the Blaze have to win in order to jump the Chill or the Pride, and a shootout win is not enough. And I guess the conspiracy theorists, provided they win, the conspiracy theorists might be out on Saturday if the Chill and the Pride go to a shootout.
Yeah, you're spot on. You can see our tips on the side here. I should just make note, I'm leading the tipping comp. I know we don't have a scoreboard, but I know I am. So just a few bragging rights there for me, guys. I've got the final games of the round and the regular season. Canberra Chill taking on the New South Wales Pride. And this game's heading out to Parks. We mentioned the country earlier, guys, so it'll be great for the teams to get out there. Mariah Williams is from Parks, so it'll be wonderful for her to play in front of a home crowd. Look, it's all to play for all 4 sides. We know the Canberra Chill men are already safely through to the main event, but honestly, I don't think they would love anything more than ruining the hopes of the New South Wales Pride men. So I reckon they'll turn up to play. I have heard a whisper that maybe Andrew Charter won't be playing, but we'll wait and see. For the Pride men, they finally welcome back Matt Dawson and Tom Craig, pending travel and injury. They look like they're ready to suit up. And Flynn Ogilvie is probably flown under the radar for not playing much. He's only played the 2 games so far. He'll be back in for this really important fixture as well. The Pride men need to win. The Chill men don't. So that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. As for the ladies, the winner is guaranteed a spot in the main event out of the Chill and the Pride. If the Brisbane Blaze fumble the night before against the Adelaide Fire and the ladies, then maybe both these teams will go through, but we'll have to wait and see. As I said, all to play for. It's going to be a huge final weekend of the Sultana Bran Hockey 1 League. We've got the main event starting in Bendigo next Saturday. We've got one more show, guys, and next week we'll wrap things up with the Shootout Award show. So maybe Cliffo, throw on a tux. Kate, you can maybe do your hair and put something nice on, and I'll try and scrub up well for the award show as well. But until then, thanks for watching. Hooroo.